This is really amazing, and Simon was there. Good morning, Simon Owen. That had to be a pretty amazing experience.
Morning, yeah. I mean, you think we pitch up in front of the microphone whenever we want to, switch it on, and we know that people are your words when you're behind the microphones of this particular radio station is that anybody listening in North Korea is risking potentially their life. Outside information is banned, and in North Korea, if you do something wrong, there's a good chance your family is going to be severely punished as well. But I spoke to the man who runs this, and he said that it is human instinct to want to know about unknowns, and that's why people take the risk of owning a radio. So it's called North Korea Reform Radio, and that is its aim. If not regime change, it wants certainly major reform. So it's pretty lofty goals. And it's run by, as you say, this team of defectors. The president of the station is called Kim Seong-chol. He was born in North Korea. He left as a young man 25 years ago. His story is not unusual among defectors. He said he was working as a civil engineer in North Korea. He was sent on a work trip to the Soviet Union, as it was then. And he said while he was abroad, he started to realize that North Korea was not everything the regime had made it out to be. And not long after that, he left his home and his family. And eventually, because it's not a simple journey, he made it to South Korea, set up this station. And for the past 10 years, it's been broadcasting a range of programs. They do an hour sort of very early in the morning, an hour very late at night. And over the years, he told me, around 20 listeners have ended up defecting.
Wow. And you think about it, he's putting his life in danger because, think about it, some of the assassinations that have been carried out through North Korea have happened not on North Korean Seoul. The other thing is, it is so interesting to think about how just by listening to that radio station, a North Korean is putting their lives in danger. I mean, it's really incredible.
Yeah, I mean, I asked him about the danger question, and I mean, he's a very softly spoken, modest man, so he dismissed that question and sort of laughed it off and said, I don't feel like I'm in any danger. But yeah, I mean, North Korea has acted abroad as far as we're aware when it comes to taking people out. There's also been reports of defectors being abducted, taken back to North Korea, and in some cases, indeed, people who find the South simply too much, too developed, and they end up going back out of choice, or your family is threatened back home, and you go back as a result of threats to your family. So, yeah, I mean, it's not a simple situation. But I mean, even getting hold of a radio is not easy. And he was saying that there's, I think there is some kind of black market in radio devices in North Korea. But what this man said is that also there have been times when people have even built their own. And one of the beauties of radio is that the technology can be relatively basic, and we're talking about shortwave radio transmissions here, pretty old-fashioned. And he said that there's been defectors who have built their own and taken it with them, and it's actually one that's in a museum in Germany. The defectors took it out with them and said, look, this is how we got word from the outside and started to learn about the world. And he said, once you get hold of a radio, he said, it's like an addiction. It's an addiction to information from elsewhere.
Boy, and Simon, we all take it so much for granted, right?
Yeah, and because that's just the way of life that we're used to. But you can imagine the people who are listening to this. Well, we can't imagine, can we? We can't imagine what goes through their head when they hear these informations, because this station is not particularly light in its content a lot of the time. He said that the target audience is not the general population. It's very specifically aimed at senior officials, military officers, as well as young people and college students. And he said, we've chosen those groups because we believe they're the ones that can bring about change from the inside.
Very, very interesting. Simon Owen from Seoul, South Korea. Thanks so much for taking the time.
Thanks a lot.
All right. How about it? You just turn the radio on, turn on the app or whatever you're listening through, and you just take it for granted. But there, it's just completely different. You could die for having a radio.